It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked me what the time was that was on my watch. Yeah, and I said, does anybody really know what time it is?
Welcome in on a glorious Tuesday morning. I mean, it is a beautiful spring day. The NBA play-in starts tonight. It'll be Minnesota and L.A. It'll be late night. That thing won't start at least until 9, right? Because they're going back-to-back with the first play-in.
That's right.
So, that means it could start at 9:30.
That's right.
That means we don't go to bed till midnight?
Well, it's worth it for playoff basketball, though, right?
I think so. They're not going to do any body loading management here, are we?
Actually, yes, they suspended Rudy Gobert for a game.
Well, they did. Just one?
Just one.
What an idiot. I mean, that team is so fractured. They lost their best perimeter defender. I don't see how they could possibly win this series. And, it's weird the way it works, right? So this is 7 plays 8. The winner of the one game is the 7 seed. The loser plays the winner of 8-9 to decide who's 8, correct?
That's right.
Kind of interesting the way all that works.
So the 8 seed could be the 7 seed, and the 7 seed could be the 8 seed,
That's correct.
theoretically.
Yeah, right. So we're just going to have to sit here and wait and figure out. It's going to either be Minnesota or the Lakers. I suspect it will be the Lakers. And I know much has been said about, well, you want the path of least resistance, right? Let's hope for Minnesota. I don't. I want to see AD and LeBron. I want to see them at FedEx Forum. I think Memphis can beat them with the home court advantage. Memphis is the best home team in the league. They won 51 games this year in order to get into this position. Wouldn't it be amazing? Here's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping Golden State beats Sacramento. I'm hoping LA beats Minnesota. Memphis's path to the championship of the Western Conference would be through first the Lakers and one of the top 10 players in the history of the game in LeBron. Then you take on Golden State. That's your greatest rival now, isn't it? After all the jockeying back and forth and the hate between Green and Dylan Brooks. I mean, it's fantastic. Love it. Let's take that to the bank. There's 2, and you get them both at home. Then you take your chances. I wouldn't be shocked if Phoenix ends up beating Denver. Would you?
No, I would not.
Then you got a home court advantage against mighty Phoenix. Wow. You could find yourself in the finals.
That would be something else, though. But I tell you what, the biggest issue for me is that the Grizzlies are getting, I guess not less healthy. They've been this amount of healthy for a while. And a lot of these teams are getting more healthy, the Lakers, the Warriors, and the Suns for that matter. So that's a little bit concerning to me. But like you said, you got to beat these teams anyway. You might as well go through them when you can.
Bring on L.A. I think that's what's going to happen anyway. I mean, it's out of your hands. But take on the best. I mean, can you imagine the legacy you have if you end up beating those 2 teams to take on Phoenix and then you knock off KD and Kyrie? And Chris Paul? Oh, my goodness.
The nicknames are already there. Remember when they used to play the Clippers in the playoffs? You would have the floppers T-shirts all over the place.
Yeah.
Now you got the faker. You got the fakers all over the place now.
Yeah.
So it's great for branding if you want to sell T-shirts outside the arena.
I just think it would be so much fun. There will be so much electricity in FedEx Forum if this is the path they take. and you did all this heavy lifting in the regular season to get 51 wins, to get in the position to be the owner of the 2 seed, which means you've got for sure 2 home series advantages. And if Phoenix, which I think would be the favorite against Denver right now, if Phoenix wins, you'd actually have home court advantage against them. Wow. You couldn't ask for a better scenario. Well, you could. If you had Clark and Adams both healthy, that would be a lot better than the way it is. But I still think with the nucleus, it could be very, very fun this spring and summer down on Beale Street. Tigers get a possible future NBA player, at least in some mock draft, 6'8", wing. Really, I call him a defending dunker, okay? That is the reputation for Teofil, or is it Fail? Teofil, I think it is. Teofil Leonard. He's the kid from Middle. He's late second round on a couple of mocks. He's a very good defender. He was all-CUSA defensive team. And I guess he can dunk the ball. He had like 60 dunks last year. He's a skinny kid, though. Here's the one thing. So you look at what Memphis has gotten in the portal. They got Leonard, right? This is the skinny kid. Caleb Mills, okay. Nick Jourdain is really not a big man. Like, he's listed, I think, at 6'8", but he's pretty skinny, too. Jonathan Pierre is real skinny. This is not like the Cincinnati teams that we used to see, or even the team with Duran. I mean, and DeAndre Williams was a pretty stout guy, too. Dandridge is a pretty stout guy. I don't think Dandridge is – I don't know if he's going to be back or not. But here's what I've done. So you take the 4 guys from the transfer portal, which we just mentioned. That's Leonard, Mills, Jourdain, and Jonathan Pierre, right? That's 4. Now you've got Lawson – the 2 Lawsons and Hardaway, that's 7. You got the 4 early signees. So that is Mikey Williams, J.J. Taylor, Carl Sharon Font, and Ashton Hardaway. I think all those guys are going to be there. That's 11. Could be 10, because you can put Jaden Hardaway as a walk-on. You probably put Ashton Hardaway as a walk-on. I know his dad can afford him. Send 2 kids to school. So you got, let me do my math again. It's 4 early signees, 4 portal guys, that's 8, plus the Lawsons and Hardaway, that's 11. You get 13 scholarships, so that's 2, but you could have up to 4 depending on what you do with walk-on status for your 2 sons if you choose to do that, if you're Penny. So there's still room, like if Sonogo came here, or if there's another big name that ends up being in the portal. A Duke guy's going into the portal now.
Or if Dandridge comes back too, right? That's
or if Dandridge comes back. I don't know if he's coming back. I'm not sure that the Memphis the Penny wants him back. I don't know. That end look with the fight was not a good look. Malcolm has just never been healthy. Doesn't play a full season. I don't know. Personally, I love the kid. Always have great conversations with him. You know what his nickname is? The Mayor. Because he goes up to everybody, reporters, fans, and everybody, and wants to strike up a conversation. He's a really good dude. So I don't know. That's possibly. Then you'd only have like 1 left if he came back, unless you did that stuff with walk-on. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Penny plays this particular grouping. And we're going to talk college basketball for the last time this season with Mike DeCourcy coming up in the next segment. I just can't get a feel on how good this lineup is. If Mikey Williams and J.J. Taylor are the real deal, and Hardaway's son Ashton can really shoot threes, if Leonard is a really great defensive player, I think Mills and Williams, Mikey Williams would be the scorers, right? I think they'll be better defensively because Jourdain's a good defensive player. If Pierre can hit shots, Ashton Hardaway can hit shots. Maybe this is the makeup of a really good team. I just don't really know. There's so many question marks. And with the schedule that they've got, man, they got plenty of opportunities to end up being a really decent seed. But, you don't win those games with a new team that's got to learn each other. It'll be really, really interesting. But that was the latest on the Tigers. They got Teofeo Leonard. And I know A&M was in the picture. There was the Breakers in the Australian Basketball League was a possibility. Mock draft had him in the upper 40s, late second round. So we'll see how good he really is. By the way, the Tampa Bay Rays are 10-0. That's the first team since 1987. The Milwaukee Brewers that year were 13-0. You know what's interesting about that? The Brewers were 13-0. They won 91 games and didn't make the playoffs. In 1987, now there's more teams that get in. But that's what happened in 1987. And last night, Texas lefty Andrew Heaney, you know what he did?
What?
This is incredible. He struck out 9 consecutive batters. That's one shy. The first guy to do it. 3 guys have done it in history. But Tom Seaver was the first to do it in 1970. 10 straight Ks is the record. And Heaney, the lefty, last night threw 9 straight strikeouts against Kansas City. So we're going to talk baseball with Tim Doolin. That will come your way at the bottom, actually the last segment of the show. I got some really interesting news here, and I want to pass it along. Anybody wants to come to this, everybody, it's open. A lot of good people have funded this particular thing, but on April 26th at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, there will be a beautiful, and I've seen the picture of it, a beautiful granite monument honoring Gold Star families. It's about 100 yards from the fountain in Liberty Park. If you don't know, a Gold Star family is a family who has sacrificed a loved one while serving in the armed forces for the United States. Title Gold Star Family is meant to honor the service members' ultimate sacrifice while enduring their family's loss, their grief, and their continued healing. And I know some great people. Fred Smith, AutoZone, Simmons Bank, they provided the majority of the funding for this. It's really beautiful looking. And again, it'll be about 100 yards from the fountain in Liberty Park. So we'll have a monument there to honor all those families and, of course, the ones who lost their lives in serving for our country. So that is April the 26th, and it's at 3 o'clock. What is it? Is April 26th Saturday or Sunday?
It is a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday. Wow, interesting. All right, 3 o'clock, April the 26th, 2023. Head on over to Tiger Lane, and about 100 yards from, it's really not called Liberty Park, right near that stadium, and you will be in for a real treat to see this monument. I think that's really very, very cool. Grizzlies, sit back and wait. That's pretty much
For a week?
all that's on the docket for a week. We're going to talk tomorrow to Pete Pranica about all this. You know, I do think it's great that you got the week off because you rest up, right? Everybody's going to have great legs. You never play a back-to-back in the playoffs. And the other aspect is, in listening to some of the player interviews, they do practice, and they look at a lot of video. So I imagine if you were the coach now, what would you do? I would say 70% of my video would be on the Lakers. 30% might be on New Orleans. Now that could change tonight, obviously. But and you've got all the video from all the tendencies that you did, and you played them all this year. Those The film study that players do. J-Mo, you're former coach. What's the top thing you think you get out of watching the video? Do you get schematic stuff? Do you see how you can beat a guy? What do you get most out of watching the video?
Well, I mean, it's different. I've never been in the NBA, so it's different at different levels in that regard. But from what I understand in the NBA, everyone's running a lot of the same stuff, so you're seeing kind of percentage of actions that are run, and you're not necessarily looking at they run this play or that play, they set up this way, because everyone is kind of they kind of run all these different actions out of different sets. So you're looking at the percentage of time they run, like I'm trying to think of something that's a little more simple. Let's just say a high ball screen or something like that. So you're looking, you'll see this the most. So we're going to guard it this way and stuff like that.
Right.
But really, film study in the NBA comes down to a lot of individualized
exploiting matchups.
That's right.
That's where I was going with this. So you as a player, as a defender, or even as an offensive guy, if they're going to pick on you, right? You see where you have to be to get to your spot where you're going to be the most effective or the least weak, because they're coming at you, and you've got to figure out. And the coach uses that weakness to see where he can help on that particular guy if you're the weakest of the defenders. So I think that's really what all the film study is, and figuring out where the matchups are that you think you will be exploited or where you can exploit on them.
Certainly so. And then, like, guys will have, like, certain moves they go to the most. I mean, the best players can do, like, an ungodly amount of moves. But if you're guarding a certain player, there'll be a move that they're most prone to, or maybe it's they like to get back to their left hand when they're driving, right from the left wing or something. You know what I mean? So it'll be trends like that, like you're saying, in those matchups, what the player is most prone to doing.
It's interesting. I didn't realize this till I was really looking at what the Lakers have done. Since the trade deadline and the All-Star break, they have the second most wins in the NBA.
The Grizzlies do.
No, the Lakers.
The Lakers. Since the trade deadline, the Lakers have been one of the hottest teams in the NBA, getting healthy at the right time.
D'Angelo Russell, the acquisition there.
Excellent.
Davis and LeBron James getting healthy. And so that it's going to be a tough matchup because they're hot. I know their number behind them is a high seed. But don't let it fool you because they have come together at the right time. That's why these playoffs are going to be, I think, so much fun.
And Austin Reeves, you mentioned yesterday, he's taken on a bigger role in that time frame and really taken off as well, too.
He has. Yeah, I heard somebody saying this. I can't remember who it was, one of the talking heads on TV. But part of the reason they think Austin Reeves has been so successful is because of LeBron James. But I thought, personally, Reeves started to come on when LeBron got hurt. They had to play him. And then they went, whoa, this guy's pretty good.
It really is true. And I think the reason why whoever said that, I can point to, like in November or December, there's a video of LeBron talking to Austin Reeves on the court, and Austin Reeves just looks bewildered. Like LeBron is talking in another language that he just can't quite understand. And then there's a video that came out like a week or two ago of Austin Reeves kind of having that same dialogue with another young player. And so maybe it's just his basketball IQ or his understanding of the game has shot up so much due to LeBron James. But you're right. When given the opportunity, Austin Reeves has completely taken off.
I got to tell you, this portion of the show is brought to you by Conway, and I'm really proud of the job they do. I really mean that. And I had an issue with a clogged drain. Well, it wasn't a clogged drain. It was actually a broken sewer pipe. It is amazing to me how they located where the break was. Fortunately for me, it was outside. Because if it's inside, they got to go through your floor. They can do it all. How they find it is through sonar. It's the most amazing thing. But they're so good. They fixed it yesterday at a fair price. And I got to tell you, the way they did the job, the workmanship, it's like I never knew there was a hole that was there. They dug it up. They put the new pipe in. They actually There's a thing called an open line, which I did not have. They put in an open line for me. And other than that little white square thing that's part of the open line, you cannot tell they did anything. That's how good they are. And if you've got an issue, because it happens in the spring with tree roots and stuff, they will clear away and solve all your drain problems with what they call the 83 or it's free, this mainline drain clearing special. If they can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Now, they cleared mine. I paid. But it is really a deal. All you got to do is go to conwayservices.com and get terms, details, conditions, and then call 384-3511. Let Conway take care of you. Our title sponsor, well, you know who that is. It's Homer. Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch. It's Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis. Not all of the Hyundai dealerships have the ability to sell Genesis cars. But when you're as good as Homer Skelton is, you do. And there's a guy there named Vinny Gerard. He is over all the Genesis cars. He's a delight to talk to. You'll love his Canadian accent. When you walk in the door, if you love hockey, you want to talk hockey with him. But I would talk financing with him because he's got a special right now on a Genesis G70 car, the smaller sedan. That's really a sports car. It's a rocket if you want to know the truth. If you finance with Genesis, why wouldn't you? It's a fair rate. If you finance with Genesis, they give you a $1,000 rebate. They're paying you to do business with them at Homer Skelton Hyundai at the corner of Highway 78 Lamar and Craft Road, the first exit in Mississippi. We take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mike DeCourcy. He's in Indy. We'll wrap up the college basketball season with the Hall of Famer from the Sporting News. He's next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Case IH is a proud supporter of the Mississippi Farm Bureau, and thanks to a membership benefits partnership, Mississippi Farm Bureau members receive a discount of up to $500 on every qualifying Case IH tractor and piece of equipment you purchase. This discount may be used with other promotions, rebates, or offers. So join Mid-South Ag Equipment and the Mississippi Farm Bureau and pocket up to $500 in savings. Call Mid-South Ag at 662-890-3141 to get your discount today.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Getaway Sports Bar, the best kept secret in town, open noon to 1:30 a.m. 7 days a week. Garvin, the owner, created this SEC NFL Dream Bar over 20 years ago. You'll never miss a minute of action. 10 TVs, 5 70-inch TVs for all the big games. Rack them up on 6 pool tables. Coldest beer in town, grab you a pool stick and get you some good bar grub. 100% Angus burgers, big and moist chicken tenders. Daily happy hour Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. with long neck domestics, 225 Getaway Sports Bar, 4632 Winchester.
I'm with John Burgos from the world-famous Rendezvous in the Alley since 1948.
Brett, we have catered parties all over this country and all over the world, from Singapore, Australia to Central Park in New York, but many people don't realize how much we do locally. For holiday events, office parties, tailgating, birthday parties, you can't do better than the Rendezvous. For example, you can get a cheese and sausage tray for 15 to 300 people for $3.75 a person. You can even build your own nacho bar for $10.50 per person. All you need is a minimum of 15 people. In many cases, we can arrange delivery and full-service catering. We've even made it easy to get to-go items. You can just park at our front door in the alley, put on your flashes, and we'll get you going ASAP. For all your catering items and prices, go to hogsfly.com, click on menu, and drop down to catering.
Thank you, John. The Rendezvous, Mr. Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous in the Alley since 1948 and celebrating its 75th year.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Well, we're sitting in the Family Leisure Studio. A reminder, they still have the preseason patio and pool sale going on. Buy now, save big with all the area's largest selection of patio furniture. I was in there to get some pool chemicals yesterday. I cannot believe how good it looks. It's worth the ride, and you're saving money now on pools and patios. You can be the first on the list for getting installed if you're getting one of those above-ground pools. All you got to do is get to I-40 and Wooden Road. See them. You'll be amazed at how great it looks inside. Family leisure. Always a pleasure, but it's sad today because it's the last time this year we're going to really talk to Mike DeCourcy unless some big story breaks, and I'm sure he'll be kind enough to join us. But, Mike, give me your overall thoughts about what I thought was a terrific NCAA tournament.
Well, it certainly was entertaining, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I wrote an article on the Saturday of the semifinals of the Final Four about the numerous articles and comments I've seen on Twitter about this is going to be the lowest rated Final Four in history and all this kind of stuff. And what really bothered me about that stuff, Dave, is that none of the people who wrote or talked about that said what the consequences of that would be. And there's a good reason for that, Dave, because there were none. There are none. It doesn't matter. The contract for Turner and CBS runs for another 9 seasons beyond this one. So not going to be negotiating that based on the Florida Atlantic ratings. And 2, if magically that contract were to become available in today's television market, there are analysts who study this stuff for a living who will tell you that it would probably get ballpark twice what they're getting now. So why am I supposed to care whether everybody watches Florida Atlantic, San Diego State? My encouragement was for everybody to watch it because I thought it would be really entertaining. And you know what, Dave? It turned out to be fabulous.
Yeah. All right. What were the numbers? Were they significantly down? I know the women's numbers were the highest they've ever been. But
the men's numbers were definitely down. And from a year ago, when we had Villanova playing against Kansas and North Carolina against Duke, of course they were down because those teams have larger natural fan bases, and so those people they're naturally going to draw more fans, more viewers. That brings a lot of people to the table, and maybe they're mad because their team's not in it, so they're not watching it. I can understand that. I mean, I may have skipped the Super Bowl when San Francisco played Baltimore. I may have done that, and I think I went to see a Spike Lee movie that day. Anyway. I wasn't writing on it, so I skipped it. So I get that. But the people who watched were really entertained. They saw a buzzer shot in this national semifinal game. As far as I can tell, there have been like 3 of those in the last 40 years, actually almost 50 years. Jerome Whitehead against UNC Charlotte, now Charlotte, which is coming to the American in 1977. Jalen Suggs against UCLA for Gonzaga in 2021, and then this one. There aren't very. I don't know for sure that's the whole list, but there haven't been very many.
Well, I can recall 3 that sent it to overtime, but I don't want to get in there because that's the kind of thing that would make me not watch anymore.
No, I said semifinals, not the championship game. That's a different deal.
Okay.
So I was not trying to drag you down that memory lane.
That still hurts to this day. I can promise you that. Well, so does the closing seconds. Speaking of FAU of that game, but
absolutely,
we digress there. I personally love Cinderella stories. I have no idea, no problem. Of course, I watched it of watching a semifinal with guys that aren't blue bloods. I don't know, for instance, when back to 2012 when Memphis was in that Final Four. That was with Kansas, UCLA, and North Carolina. They were all number 1 seeds. Was that the most watched Final Four in history up to that point? I don't know.
I'm not sure that it was. I don't know. I know that it did well, and I know that 2015 when we had 3 number 1s and a number 7, I think, because that's a whole other story. There's a lot of paths you can go down when you're talking about the NCAA tournament. But that year with Wisconsin, Duke, and Kentucky, they had fabulous ratings for that. But again, it goes year to year. What people who obsess about these things without discussing the implications of it is that it doesn't matter because of that element of contractual obligation and how long it goes. So it in the end, it doesn't have any impact on the product. You're going to get what you're going to get, and what you have to remember is, okay, there's the NFL, and everything the NFL does rates higher than anything else on television. And then there's the
far.
NCAA tournament. Yeah,
right.
by far. And then there's some college football games. The big college football games are going to do really well, the big playoff games. And then there's the NCAA tournament, and there's not much else to compete with it. Even at its lowest ebb, it still outrates most NBA playoffs. You have to get into the finals with a great series to start to outrate a mediocre rated NCAA tournament. Maybe you'll pass a poorly rated NCAA tournament a little more easily, but you're still looking at the kind of numbers that very few other sporting events get, or I should say very few other television programs get.
Well, the truth is, any sporting event now is becoming more of a vehicle for advertisers because you don't tape it, you watch it live, and therefore you don't fast forward through the commercials, which you can do on so many other different fronts. And so that's why live sporting events have gotten such great rights fees, is because it's still the best vehicle to advertise on.
Yes, and also the audience numbers are bigger. It's not like in 1975 or whatever year it was that MASH went off the air and 100 million people watched.
Right.
It's not like that anymore.
No,
there are no MASHs, and the audience numbers aren't there for it if there were.
You have written a story about 7 guys trying to make a decision of whether or not they're going to turn pro. I'm curious, can college now compete with a guy who might be a second-round pick or a guy who's clearly going to be a two-way guy in the G League? Can they compete to keep a guy? Maybe, and Sanogo's an interesting thing. I got to ask you about him. But can they compete with NIL money to outdo the more minor leagues?
They've already won some of those battles. So that was the case with Oscar Tshiebwe a year ago.
Right.
It was the case with Hunter Dickinson, I believe, a year ago as well. I think you can look at Kofi Coburn when he went back to Illinois for the 22 season. Those are all evidence of that. What I think it needs where it needs work or needs better salesmanship or whatever it might be. At this point, we shouldn't have any players, and I mean any players who are first-round talents who wind up in the second round. And the state of Michigan alone had 3 of them last year, with Caleb Houston and Musa Diabate of Michigan and Max Christie of Michigan State. They were all first-round talents, didn't have big splash freshman years, went into the draft. Okay, go, find out what it's about, et cetera. I've always been one who endorses that process. But then when they tell you, yeah, you're not going to be a first-round pick yet, go back, because you can make just as much money, and there's a very slim chance. I was using this in a conversation last week. I went to a hockey game last Thursday, and they had a 50-50 pool. And if Deb and I had the right number, we'd have taken home $27,000.
Wow! At the game they did that?
Penguins fans, man, they ante up for those things. It all goes to Mario's foundation. So
wow.
Mario Lemieux's foundation. And so I mean, if we'd had the right number, but we didn't. And that's the odds of a player entering the draft, becoming a second-round pick, and outdoing any first-round pick. There have been very, very rare examples of that. But you have to be completely misdiagnosed as a draft pick and then go in and smash it in the NBA and have a huge high ceiling. I guess Jalen Brunson would be an example of that, but Jalen played 3 years. He didn't, and he was a National Player of the Year. I mean, he'd maxed his talent.
Yeah, and he won national titles.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't like he wasn't one of those guys who just, I'm done with after my 1 year. I mean, He went and played 3 years, won National Player of the Year, 2 titles. He'd done everything there was to do at the college level, and the NBA whiffed on the evaluation. And, okay, so he probably outdid a majority of first-round picks, but that's how rare it is.
I wonder, is Austin Reeves one of those guys? Was he a second-round pick?
I think he was, but
Yeah.
again, Austin was a multi-year player in college. I
Right.
think he might even. I think he played at least 3 years, so I think that the idea of going in there and doing what those guys did is a massive mistake, because you can tread water at minimum. When you're Max Christie with his dynamism, the worst you're going to do is come out and still be a early second round pick. That's the worst. And if you come back this year and lead Michigan State to a Final Four, if he'd been back there this year, maybe, who knows? I mean, they made a Sweet 16 without him. If he leads them to the Final Four, all of a sudden he's a lottery pick. So that shouldn't happen any longer. I'm hopeful that this next class will avoid that trap and will, like, everybody who's a first round pick, okay, go for it. It doesn't always work out, but at the very least you have some minimums there that guarantee you have a chance. But the second round pick, it's such a crapshoot. If you're a second round pick, you can make it, you cannot. The money isn't going to be much better than what you're making as a, for at least for the near term, as a college player. So don't do that if you have that level of ability.
Let's talk about the Adama Sanogo case, because it's interesting to me. And there was chatter, and it was, I think, pretty much before UConn won the national title, and he was the most outstanding player. But he is born in a different country. He's a foreigner. So with NIL rules the way they are now, he's not allowed to make any kind of money from NIL. Now, there's a caveat in this, from what I understand, and I want your clarification, is that unless the team is playing out of the country, then
Right.
you can find financing somehow through legitimate NIL, because you can pay them, let's be honest. And because Memphis is playing in Atlantis in the Bahamas, that there's been talk, because there's a connection between Tiger assistant Anthony, what's his name? Andy, gosh, I'm having Mike Krzyzewski's nephew. He's the grandson of Borman, Andy Borman, of Frank Borman, the astronaut. Anyway, he's got a connection way back with AAU and Sanogo, and because Memphis is playing in the Bahamas, they could get him NIL money. I have no idea if any of that's going to come to fruition. I would imagine they'd figure out a way somehow. If you're Danny Hurley, you're not letting this kid go if he's going to stay in the collegiate ranks. But that's a weird deal, the way that works. Am I right on here?
Well, I mean, I don't know about the idea of transferring. That seems a bit extreme when you're coming from a national championship and being the most outstanding player.
But if they can't pay you and somebody else can, you would think about it, wouldn't you?
Well, I think he would be more likely to just turn professional and make his way there. I would expect that would be it. And again, I don't know whether UConn has the capacity to go on a foreign tour, because I mean, if you haven't gone on one in a while, and most teams haven't because of COVID, that wiped out a couple of years of that as a possibility. So I don't know what UConn's last foreign tour was. If they have the window to do it, I'd be ratcheting up a trip to Canada or whatever in no time.
Right, this summer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to take a bus to Toronto from Stores. Let's get going. So that, but it is true. I did a piece after the Sweet 16 game that SD State won against Alabama about Nathan Mensah. A friend of mine tipped me off to the fact that he played an extra year, his fifth year at San Diego State, as a intern for a financial services company. And he made what every other intern makes, but he made it through the year. It wasn't just a summer internship for him. And that's the one loophole, but it's not a big loophole. You can't make $1 million as an intern. He wasn't making that. I think he was making something an hour,
Right.
So and so it helped him to get some money to validate the idea of coming back for the extra year. And obviously it paid off in a trip to the national championship game. and he's going to get an MBA. So this was an academic internship that, again, he got paid for. So it went toward credit toward his MBA. So that you can do, but if you look at Oscar Tshiebwe, his NIL money was mostly earned while they were in the Bahamas, while Kentucky was in the Bahamas. So for him to come back this year, I don't know exactly what sort of approach they would do. There is some conversation about changing that law.
Well, you
in
should.
some way.
I mean, honestly, that should be changed. I don't understand the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a international student, I mean, you should be able to work in the school bookstore, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but I read through some of the laws, and I don't know that any exception was made for work study. I didn't see it. I wasn't looking for it, but I didn't see it. But I don't see why that should be something that you're prohibited from if you're an international student.
All right, tell me what you are really looking forward to, what you think will be the best storylines for 23-24.
Well, I think first of all, it starts with the possibility of UConn repeating. We don't know what every player will do, but I think they will have enough back to be in the picture. When I did my too early top 25, way too early top 25 the week before the Final Four, and I had them as my number one team, so that was before they won the championship.
Right.
That does impact some element of, like a Sunogo. Okay, now I've done what I wanted to do. I played 3 years. Is this the best place for me to play another year, or do I move on? But with Donovan Clingan there, I don't know that they need to keep Sunogo to remain a contender. I think they'll still be in the picture. Jordan Hawkins will certainly leave.
Yeah,
he'll be a top 15 pick. Andre Jackson was the player that I focused on. I think they need him back to contend for a title, and I think he can. Watching him in person in Houston, he's not ready to play in the NBA. There are a lot of elements of his game. I want him on my team in college every day of the week. Fabulous college player, but he still has a lot to work on to be an NBA player if he wants to last in the league. So that's certainly one element of next season that I would look forward to. Obviously, Kentucky. The pressure on them to succeed is not going to abate until they succeed, because that's the way that people who don't like Cal want it to be. And then the funny thing about that is 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that was a lot of disappointed Memphis people. They're way back in line now. There's the media that doesn't like John. There are the Kentucky fans that think they should have 7 national championships under Cal. So the Memphians, the spurned Memphians, are now way back in the list of anti-Calipari forces.
Of Cal haters, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, there was the rumor he was going to go to Texas, but I think he probably put that out there to try to get back in the good graces.
Oh, no, it was
Kentucky
angry
fans.
Kentucky fans that pushed that. They wanted him out. When they were struggling, and one person even showed up to a game with a sign that said, "Please go to Texas."
I know, I saw that, and then he had him removed. Cal
Well,
had him
not
removed.
him.
I don't know
It
if Cal
wasn't
did.
Cal.
Somebody did.
It wasn't Cal.
Somebody
It was somebody,
removed him.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is always a sad day for me. We say goodbye for a little bit. Maybe we'll get you on after signing period just to sort of let us know what you think about who did well totally in that way. But enjoy the summer. Give our best to Deb. Take a little time off, and we'll talk to you next September.
Sounds great. Take care.
Thank you, Mike.
And thanks to everybody in Memphis who listened. You're all still in my hearts for sure.
We appreciate it. That is the Hall of Famer from the Sporting News. That is Mike DeCourcy, and he is brought to you in part by the good folks at the Eflin Insurance Team. They do really an unbelievable job. In a different way when they protect your family. They do it with collaboration. They get to know everybody in your group. They get to know what's important to you. They maybe even forecast out what you will be looking like your kids a couple of years from now. They're going to need cars. Got to have auto insurance for teenagers. They figure it all out for you, whether that is auto insurance or maybe it's your home, maybe it's life insurance. All you got to do is call 901-386-4777. That spells out GER because they love your Memphis Tigers. If you've got a small to mid-sized business, they're incredible with commercial insurance, and they do the same thing. They get to know your employees, your product. They forecast out. They find out what your budget is, and then they protect you. Again, 901-386-4777. That's the Eflin Insurance Team. We take a break. When we come back, baseball with Tim Doolin.
Be sure to follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ.
Do you want a greener, more weed-free lawn? If you're like me, you can't stand the sight of dandelions, clover, or especially crabgrass. Hi, I'm Brandon Hawley, president of Lawn Solutions. We are your locally owned and operated weed control and fertilization company. We are also experts in disease and insect control on your lawn and landscape. Our uniformed technicians are full-time, year-round licensed and certified by the state of Tennessee. Lawn Solutions' personalized service is far more superior to that of national companies that promise but simply cannot deliver. We return phone calls, we keep appointments, and we want your business. What we will not do is bother you with endless phone calls or junk mail. Lawn Solutions will not sell you something your lawn doesn't need. If you're looking for a local lawn care company to kill your weeds and feed your grass, then Lawn Solutions is the finest. Call us at 867-5626. That's 867-5626. Or go online at LawnSolutionsInc.net. From our family to yours, we want to thank you for your business.
On April 15th, don't miss the historic return of pro football to Memphis. Here we go. After 40 years, the Showboats are back. So get your tickets for a huge USFL kickoff weekend at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. All the way to the house. Bring the whole family and show off your Showboats pride with a free t-shirt. Doesn't get much more exciting than that. Seats start at just $10. Touchdown. Buy your tickets today at theusfl.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So, you've got an oil change coming up. Consider STP Conventional High Mileage to save on motor oil for your everyday vehicle. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP oil filter for only $26.99. Do the complete job for the right price. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
There's an institution in East Memphis that I love talking about. It's the Spirit Shop at 4848 Poplar Avenue, right down the street from Clark Tower, and it looks like a log cabin. It's been around Memphis since 1969 with a family-owned, friendly, knowledgeable sales staff that is just a wonderful place to go. I love going in and talking wine or bourbons, and they've got such great selection. So if you've not visited the Spirit Shop in a while, it's been remodeled. You'll love what you see when you need spirits. Tell Eddie Wolo said hello.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Time to talk some baseball. We're going to be concentrating a little bit more on that now that college basketball is over. And the best, Tim Doolin, is going to break it all down for us in a second. It's brought to you in part by Southern Security Credit Union, your home team credit union. They've been around for 70 years. If you're a business owner, they're amazing. If you need an auto loan, you need better benefits with your credit cards, that is exactly what they do at Southern Security. They handle all your business banking needs. They provide the lowest competitive rates on any kind of loan, auto loans. They provide low rates and better benefits on your credit card and a whole lot more. It's like being in a family. Free checking. It's just outstanding video banking, external transfers, and more. Lower rates than traditional banks. And they make you feel like family. In fact, if you want to call, you'll talk to a person. They are dedicated that way. Any kind of questions, call the member services line, 901-452-7900. That's extension 5. Southern Security Credit Union, your home team credit Union. Tim Doolin on baseball. It doesn't get any better than that. Didn't get much better than last night. And a couple of unbelievable stories, Tim. The Tampa Bay Rays are now 10-0. That's the first time since 1987 a team has started off that well. The Brewers were 13-0 that year. And then you had the Texas lefty Andrew Heaney, who tied an American League record by striking out 9 straight batters. That's amazing stuff. Good morning.
Yeah, it is really amazing. I mean, first of all, talking about the Tampa Bay Rays, we've talked about it several times over the last several years about the Rays and how they continue to just keep doing it with one of the lowest payrolls in the game. They never get very good fan attendance. Hopefully, they're getting the stadium situation turned around where the fan base will increase a little bit in that area. But I think it's just a remarkable job of how good their front office is, and they were one of probably the top 3 or 4 teams that really got into the analytics after the Billy Beane era with the A's, and you've seen others do it. But I mean, if you and I were talking, even though we're not from that market, you probably couldn't name 3 players on that team.
I can name really and truly. I can name like one.
You get Rosarini, right?
No, Wander Franco, their shortstop, second-year guy. Yep. He's fantastic, switch hitter. Only 20. He's really a good player.
He's really good.
And apparently their pitching is really good because they have hardly given up many runs in this streak. But you know how many people showed up last night for that game?
No telling.
16,000. I mean, come on. You're 10-9-0, and you get 16,000 to the ballpark. But honestly, the guy that owns that team, he turned down a deal in Tampa, where because it's all where the ballpark is. They have some of the highest TV ratings. This owner is just, he's smart with getting players and administrators and coaches that know what the heck they're doing. But he's not figured out the business model because they need to move. Not away from Tampa either. They need to be in Tampa because that market deserves it.
Yeah. I think they're working really hard with all the political people and trying to get that worked out. But to your point, they have done a great job of really developing young talent, and obviously, and they know they're going to lose that talent once they become free agents. So they're able to make some trades and get some good young players and replenish their minor leagues. The guy last night was throwing 100 miles an hour. He was really projected over the last year and a half to 2 years as just being a setup lefty. He had obviously a great fastball and a really good breaking ball. Well, he told him in the offseason, I want to be a starter, and he developed a really, really good changeup, of which, it's hard to fathom a changeup being 90 miles an hour, but when you're throwing 100, it's all about being able to locate and add and subtract, and he pitched a gem of a game last night. And they're an exciting team to watch, although we don't see them that much. But they're always in the hunt, especially the last 3 or 4 years.
That's 9 straight strikeouts against Kansas City. So what's interesting is that ties the American League record. There's now 3 guys that have done that. The first guy ever to do 10 in a row was literally Tom Terrific. Tom Seaver did that in 1970. 2 other guys have done that, all in the National League, though. In this day and age, with the way people hit, it's amazing. 10 strikeouts or 9 last night?
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is, because there's so many guys now that are just going up there to ambush a fastball early in the count or whatever, and it's hard to fathom that 9 guys in a row are not able to put a ball in play.
Wow. All right. So the Rangers are leading their division 6-4, but just a game over the Angels and a game and a half on the Astros, which you figure are going to make their move. In that same division is Oakland. Oakland, I think, is clearly the worst team in Major League Baseball, although Detroit's going to give them a run for their money. But the A's are 2-10. They've lost 5 in a row. Their run differential, -49 in 10 games.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I mean, they're much like the Rays as far as attendance, and the stadium's depleted, but yet they're not able to put good young talent on the field. So it's going to be very difficult for them to try to figure it out unless they get into a new stadium, generate some more revenue, and then able to get some good young players in their minor league system. They don't have guys that they can that can even trade to pick up some of those players. So I do think that, with Texas's new stadium, the owners committed. They went out and signed, obviously some big free agents, got a veteran manager to come out of retirement. So I think they're moving in the right direction. That's for sure. Unlike the A's.
All right, so the Cardinals are off to a slow start. Last place in the National League Central, only 3-7 out of their first 10 games. They do have a terrific rookie in Jordan Walker, who I think has a hit in every single game, but he's only hitting.
He does. That's correct.
But he's only hitting 250.
Well, let me tell you something. I saw this kid coming through the circuit. He was actually in the same class as Blaze Jordan. Just a super, super talented athlete that was able to slow the game down. He came up as a third baseman. Obviously, they moved him to the outfield because they got some guy named Arenado that plays that position pretty well. But I will tell you this, and it was noted on some of the TV and the MLB Now and some other baseball talk shows. Is I don't know if you were. I think it was after last Tuesday when. You had a situation with one of your good young outfielders not hustling around the bag, and Mormal really probably pulled a kind of a rookie manager play on it and called him out in the media. You don't do that because what happens when you do that? And this guy plays the game the right way. He was not running hard because their base coach probably shouldn't have sent him, but did.
Well, he had a bad hamstring too. Is what Tyler O'Neill said.
Well, the bottom line is you handle that in the clubhouse. You don't handle it. You don't handle it in the media because then what happens is exactly, in my opinion, what's happening now. You lose if you lose the players and you lose the clubhouse. It's kind of hard to bounce back because you got to have your players on the same page. And I just think it was a bad move on Marmal to call him out. And I thought he handled it, relatively well in the media himself. And I wouldn't be shocked if they end up trading the guy just because there's you lose some respect for your manager when he does that.
Well, let me ask you this: that would be the whole team, though. So you could trade away Tyler O'Neill because of that friction. Although I thought you're right, he was terrific. He basically said, "Well, I disagree with the manager. I was trying hard. I got a hamstring issue." And he didn't take a shot at him, but what would the rest of the locker room think?
That's again, that's going to be the challenge. You got a lot of veteran guys on that club. So when you're a manager of a team that's got veteran players, I played for Johnny Oates, best manager I ever played for. He was smart enough when you have a really good lineup and you have a good roster. Some of the best managers are smart enough just to get the hell out of the way, right?
Right.
And much like you've seen the success the Cardinals have had over the years, you had Albert, you had Yachty, you had, you got Goldschmidt now, you got Arenado now. Just get out of the way. I mean, and if it becomes an issue for a player not to play, then you just trade him or send him down. You don't have to do it in the media, especially the first week of the season.
I agree with you, and you're right. That can rip up a clubhouse, and I don't know how permanent that damage could be. But the Cardinals are off to a really bad start at 3-7. Tim, it's going to get more interesting as we go. We'll talk about it next week.
Look forward to it, Wolo. Thanks.
That's our guy, Tim Doolin on baseball. He's brought to you by Ken Garland. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Hey, if you're looking for land, he's got it. If you've got land that maybe you've had in your family for a while, you're ready to pull the trigger on that dream home, but you don't know how to utilize it, he does. He's got 2 generations of Ken Garlands with knowledge. And if you go to kengarland.com, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The palaces that have been built by that company over the last 65 or 70 years. It'll wow you. And he's fun to talk to, 751-1632. That's the number. He sees little details and the big picture all at once. Not many people can do that, but Ken can. And he loves chatting with you. He's fun to talk to. So call that number and know this. He's going to work with you. He knows you've made the commitment. You will get exactly what you should expect. Quality construction, on time, on budget. 2 generations tell you this is the best. Again, 751-1632 or go to kengarland.com. That'll do it for us. Johnny Radio is next. Have a great spring day, everybody.
Bartlett Small Engine has been serving